The Labor government has put industrial relations back on the agenda with its same work, same pay proposal. So for thoughts on this and how it might affect the business community in particular, Shaun Schmitke, head of Master Builders, joins me now. Shaun, thank you so much for your time today. It's actually one that we haven't picked up on just yet, or all that much lately. A lot going on in the world, of course, but industrial relations, we're talking about real structural things with the economy here. So can you provide a little bit of context of what's happening in the space right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Good to be with you, Kyle. Look, this is a pretty radical set of changes that the government's got on the table right now, and it has a big potential to fundamentally change how a lot of businesses operate and how a lot of workplaces operate. It is essentially a policy that we've been saying for quite some time makes no sense, but effectively what the government is saying here is that people who are doing the same job should get the same rate of pay. That to us is something which is completely illogical and which will result in outcomes which will be anti-worker, anti-business, and make it difficult, particularly for the building and construction sector.
So, I mean, what are the fundamental risks here as you see it at the moment? I mean, we're talking a lot about productivity right now and the fact that, well, productivity is lagging. I mean, is there that element if everyone's getting the same pay no matter the work that they're doing, it's, you know, sort of stripping out that kind of productivity element of things? Also, is this sort of a concern about the way that sort of higher labour costs might affect business profits as well as obviously hiring intentions going forward?
Yes, absolutely right. I mean, look, I suppose there's three elements to this policy which are really concerning, which have potential for far-reaching ramifications. The first is the what they're intending to do. I mean, it makes no sense. In fact, it's contrary to Australian workplace laws as they currently exist and the way they've existed for a long time, to be able to provide a minimum safety net for everybody, but also allow experienced workers to get ahead, to reward people with particular skills, specialist skills or experience or familiarity with a particular business. Employers will be far more reluctant to pass on big wage increases to those people for fear of being captured by this policy. At the other end of the labour market, I suppose you have new workers coming into the workforce, and essentially this policy could operate to make them be paid the same amount as those experienced workers. So that's going to make employers more hesitant to take on new workers and young people. The second element we have a concern about is the how. I mean, how will this policy actually work in practice? What is a job? What is a pay rate? How do you go and compare those two things for particular circumstances that are unique to each worker and unique to each business? And then the third, and this is the real problem for building and construction, is the who. The government keeps changing the goalposts here insofar as where this policy intends to apply and who it intends to capture. First, we heard it was about all workplaces, then it was certain workplaces that use labour hire. Now we're hearing that it's certain workplaces with enterprise agreements, and there's a lot of uncertainty and confusion that this is causing. In particular, for building and construction, we are very concerned, and in fact, the government's own consultation papers have made this clear, that it opens the door to capture subcontracting and independent contracting, which is a feature of building and construction, and it has been that way not only in Australia but internationally for well over 100 years. We don't use subcontracting and independent contractors to drive down wages or attack workers' conditions. We use it simply because that's the only way that building work can be performed. You can't put a roof on a house until you get the slab down, so you need to have those specialist contractors engaged at that particular point in time throughout the construction process. So if this policy applies as we think it will, that's going to fundamentally undermine building and construction and the way building work's performed. That's only going to drive up costs for consumers, make it harder for small business, all at a time when the industry faces quite high economic volatility and the community is crying out for their projects to be delivered on time and on budget.
So, with the reforms as they are, obviously have an issue with what's being proposed, especially at a broad level. I mean, from your perspective, what do you think we need and what do you think Australian business needs to obviously ensure both sort of a dynamic workplace where workers are rewarded, but also one where, you know, businesses are allowed to thrive and obviously deliver the benefits that they're looking to, both to obviously their shareholders and interests within the business, but obviously also to the broader community?
Well, those particular interests aren't mutually exclusive. We all know this. We have a very, very comprehensive set of workplace laws in Australia that's been in place for quite some time. In fact, one of the most comprehensive systems in the world. The system as it currently stands, we think, is working in this respect and doesn't necessarily need to have too much change in order to get wages moving. In terms of productivity, what we are seeing is a greater focus on restrictions on conditions and restrictions on when employers can operate their business, and particularly in building and construction. In the period since the ABCC was abolished, for example, we've seen a greater union influence. We want to enforce and get businesses to sign up to their sort of one-size-fits-all enterprise agreements, which restrict when you can work, how you can work, and how much people can get paid. So that is anti-productivity, that's anti-flexibility, and what that's doing is driving up the cost of construction, in return to give the unions a bit more of a say, or in fact, a lot of say over what happens in the industry. The second thing is that we need to really refocus and get back to basics here. We used to have a system that would allow and encourage productivity improvements in workplaces and have that linked back to wage rises. That is basically something which is a concept from the past. We don't understand why that's the case. If we want to get wages moving in Australia and we want greater productivity outcomes, we need to get back to a system like that and ensure that productivity is at the heart of our workplace laws instead of them being anti-productivity as they currently stand.